I call the member for Maroochydore.
Thank you, Mr Speaker. I think the Premier protested too much. Since I tabled in hearings estimates in December 2020, an email allegedly sent on a private email account from Transport Minister Bailey to the Premier, also on a private email account, discussing the ideology of a possible DG candidate and their suitability for the role, clearly a work-related issue. We've seen the Premier duck and weave and hunker down and refuse to answer questions. The more the Premier pretends there's nothing to see here over the email scandal but refuses to answer basic questions in an open and accountable way, the more this issue smells. It raises a very real spectre, as I'll explain shortly, of a subversion of the right to information process, as well as the issue of the Premier misleading the House. But without clear answers to straight questions, the Premier's reluctance to be open and accountable just draws greater attention to the disparity between her claims of openness and integrity and the reality of a government cloaked in secrecy and Labor-aligned lobbyists and union officials with inside connection to decision-making. There's an old saying that it is the cover-up that will get you, sometimes more than the original error. The Premier has refused time and again to answer questions, to release the emails at the heart of the issue and come clean about why she was so determined to keep things in the shadows. And you have to ask the question why. And the biggest unanswered question, which won't go away until this parliament and the people are treated with respect, straight answers rather than the ducking and the weaving. Why does it matter? Because this is about integrity, because government decisions made in the dark are a corruption risk. They are a corruption risk. I want to address the issue. In February 2017, the Premier told this parliament she did not use her private email accounts for government business. The same year, her Minister for Transport was caught out using, revealed that he'd been caught out using private email accounts for government work and being described in the subsequent investigation by the CCC as foolish when he had tried to delete these emails. The Premier didn't sack him. Now I believe why she failed to really discipline him appropriately was that she had also been caught up in this email scandal, which to a reasonable person would appear to have been work-related or have work-related content. I do believe she's misled the parliament about that. From the emails we've since sent, not released by the Premier, but released by the boss of the CCC. On those emails, on the Premier's private email account, they appear to refer to Minister Bailey, who was writing to her on his private email to follow up to her DG. However, the Premier has since taken to brandishing advice from the Solicitor General, which doesn't clear her, as she told one media outlet. That's not the Solicitor General's job. He provides opinions. His opinion, in fact, raises more questions, as we found out in this morning's question time. Firstly, the Solicitor General's advice is an opinion, but it's not the one that counts in regard to the Public Records Act. It's the State Archivist who, interestingly, had a very different opinion about what were state records under that Act that should have been kept. The State Archivist had a different opinion from the Solicitor General, and it's the State Archivist whose opinion matters. Ministers are bound by the Public Record Act, and that means having respect for the State Archivist. I believe it's time that the State Archivist did have an enhanced statutory role where they can report directly to this parliament and report to the parliamentary committees as well as to the minister directly. But that's another issue that we'll pursue further, because I do believe it's unfortunate that the State Archivist role came to an end. It appears on the same day that we saw the Solicitor General's advice was written or presented to the Premier, that she subsequently tabled the next day. So let me just address another issue, though, because there's more questions than answers out of the Solicitor General's opinion, because it revealed that he was also referencing so-called legal advice, whether it was independently sought. Who engaged Kerry Mellifont, we don't know. But interestingly enough, it was regarding emails, it appears, that were subject of an RTI lodged by the opposition. And Kerry Mellifont's advice, who engaged it? Premier won't answer that. That's not a normal process for RTI. for whether it's a minister or a department to go and get external legal advice, engaged by who, we don't know, Premier won't answer. But it was interesting, that advice was dated only days before the department released their RTI response to the opposition. There are more questions than answers. This smells, this is a cover-up, and it's a subversion of the RTI process as well.